Hey everyone. Hope you guys have had a good dinner. We're going to move on to the main event of our evening. I'm Nina Dutta, and I'll be taking a moment to introduce our guest of honor this evening. Dr. Krzysztof Laudanski is a professor in the Department of Anesthesiology and Perioperative Care at the Mayo Clinic. His research interests focus on regulating DNA expression in survivors after critical care illnesses, healthcare operations, medical decision-making processes, and healthcare innovation, such as artificial intelligence and nanotechnology. Not sure what that is. He is a PI on the NIH-funded grant investigating abnormalities in gene regulation after critical care insults. Dr. Laudanski did his residency training at the University of Florida in Gainesville in anesthesiology. He did his intensive care training at Beth Israel in Boston and was on the faculty at the University of Pennsylvania for over 12 years after making the move to Mayo in the past year. He founded a startup, QBIM Diagnostics, a company oriented at diagnosing immune disorders using nanotechnology, and he's also president of the Society for Healthcare Innovation. Since his research showed that suboptimal decision-making processes might expose patients to unnecessary risks and have negative economic consequences for hospital systems, he suggested, developed, and implemented artificial algorithms in critical care settings integrating AI with wearable biosensors and predictive diagnostics. Adjusting healthcare operations and delivery based on availability, cultural specificity, and local demands is another area of interest that Chris frequently pursued. He's a committed mentor, with several of his mentees attaining positions in academia and private companies and receiving prestigious scholarships. Outside of Dr. Laudanski's professional accomplishments, he also had the distinguished honor of having me as his resident during his intern year here in Connecticut. So, lucky Chris. Anyways, it's my great honor to introduce Dr. Laudanski. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for this kind introduction. Let's talk about business, what we're going to talk about. So when Nina asked me about this lecture, she said, I want to do AI. From whatever you heard, I'm probably the least expert on the AI, but I was involved in several processes how to deploy the AI, so I learned a little bit. I think it's an interesting subject, but the problem with the subject is that everybody thinks that there's a doomsday about to happen because the AI is coming. When we decided to make this lecture, the idea was actually to show the bright side of the AI, and that's going to be one of the motion of this lecture. So I work at Mayo Clinic for the last year. I'm the professor in the Department of Anesthesiology and the critical care. I have a lab which deals how the people recover after critical care illness and the surgery. I personally believe that, contrary to the current trend in ICU, I can make the people younger when they come to the ICU, not older. But we'll see whether that works. I work on the faculty development, and that's my kind of primary streams of work over there. But I also used to work at University of Pennsylvania. Over there, I was involved in the tele-ICU program. During the COVID, we built a system from 80 beds to 320 and then to 3,000. And in process of developing that system, we learn how to do the AI to a certain degree. I guess this is not agreeing with me well. Okay. So that's, I work also in other places. I did my actual internship in Griffin Hospital in Connecticut. So I know a little bit the place. I love when I can buy the Polish fruit in Connecticut. It's much easier than Minnesota. That's how I look when I start my medical career. Before the medical school, then medical school and residency happened, and then Mayo happened. So you can clearly see that I'm losing my hair. All right, what I do research about, and I try to integrate all those things together, and for those who are younger faculty and you being told that research is complicated, it is. But it's not that complicated unless you do it smartly. That means all those three domains that I work on, I try to mix. I try to find the people who will help me to write the paper, so I don't need to do all the work down the road. Now, somebody said on the initial talk over here that you need to find the people who will do the work. This is going to be a problem, finding the people who wants to do the work. That's 1 in 10. Okay? Once you have those people, you can do all the research you want and all the mix it together, because actually When you have 2 committed people, you have an output of 4. But what my research is about is how, when you have a critical care needs on surgery, what does it change in your DNA regulation that you're not always the same? How do you age because of the surgery? How do you age because of the epigenetics? How do you age because of the other mechanisms like microbiome? I got very interesting in that subject. And then I discovered one thing. It doesn't matter what I discover. I have to somehow convince my colleagues to do it. And I'm sure all of you had this moment in your life when you said, listen, there was this new paper. And your colleague would say, but I believe otherwise. Well, that's a barrier to deploying any discovery. So I got interested how those barriers can be overcome, and then I got interested in the healthcare innovation, healthcare management, healthcare implementation. And the last thing is, this is kind of my sort of personal journey. I came from Poland. So I kind of heard about America, but was very naive. And I discovered that a lot of my patients don't have the same chance I had, and the question was, why? They actually have a tougher opportunities than I ever had. If you drive through Philadelphia, it was easy for me to come here, quote unquote. It's impossible for the people from North Philly to become a doctor or get a healthcare. Why is that? Fascinating subject. Now, about myself, they always wanted to include some kind of fun fact about myself. So nobody can pronounce my first name. I actually never worked in any place except Mayo because each single work contract had misspelling of my first or the last name. The last name is easier, but I think the time when I gave up on my first name, when I got into the Uber in like 2018, the Uber driver looked at my names like, dude, this thing is impossible to pronounce. And he's working the consumer service. I'm like, okay, give up. I'm just going to be a Chris. So you can call me this way. In the terms of the disclosures, I work for NIH. I have a funding from them. I am quite involved in the Society for Critical Care Medicine. I work in the TEL-ICU committee in the section, so if anybody is interested in joining the section by whatever reason, please let me know. We're looking for the young people. And also work on the big initiative co-chair. As Nina mentioned, I am founder of the company Cubing Diagnostic, which probably will get sold or will implode. But 19 out of 20 companies will fail. So I have only 18 more to go. I do some consulting, and I'm the president of the Healthcare Innovation. What the society actually does, we provide the support for the people from disadvantaged communities, how you do innovation. And we believe that if we take their ideas, and if their ideas are below 50,000 capitalization market, we can give them interesting experience, and maybe they will turn their life around. Thank you very much for the society to invite me. Nina, thank you. That's how I look when I was her intern. Young, happy, whatever. Okay, she did not change. It's abomination. Okay, she's in the middle of this picture. Okay, this is our graduation. Let's see. This doesn't want to work. But she's just behind the red cap over there, right, Prabha? She didn't change. Abomination. Okay. So what's our goal? AI is awesome. Please do not say that it's going to kill us all. Okay, or we're going to die, or the Matrix will happen, or what's the other movie, Terminator, one of my favorite. Well, it's awesome, but then there's a couple, it's like a disclaimer on the bonds. There's always a bunch of stuff that you need to know before you understand the message. It has to be done right. That's number one. Number three, it needs your involvement. You cannot be a passive physician waiting for the venture capital company telling you how your AI is going to work. That's how the Epic was built, and everybody can play on the Epic. Nobody wants to go to the paper, but Epic could be much more better if the physician get involved earlier. Okay? It needs courage. It's hard to learn new things, right? We do know that if something is truly awesome, when like was my first Uber ride, I'm like, oh my God. I got the Uber, the guy came, I drove from A to Z, it was flawless. Prior experience, some may come, he will be on the phone, the taxi will be yellow and dirty inside. That's very few innovations being introduced like that. Innovation takes some adaptation. There is this learning curve, so we have to be ready for that. And the other thing is, you have to need why we need the AI, right? If we're going to believe that the AI will kill us all, obviously that's a pretty gloomy picture. But I love when the AI extract the medical notes from whatever I talk and put on the paper. And I hate typing, and I'm second, I don't speak English as my first language. So for me, it's a great toy to play with. Okay? So we will not die because of the AI. Like, we might, but that's unlikely. So let's talk about, what's our goals for this talk is. One, I will talk a little bit what AI is. I was told that this is a very diverse environment, happy to provide to all folks. You don't have to be expert. You can be completely naive. You can also be an expert. Either way is fine. I show you where the AI is being implemented, what's the opportunities over there, because these opportunities will come to you. Sooner or later, they will come to you. And I show you the project that we did at Penn, which is actually a practical development of the AI, starting from the implementation. That means there was a need, and we develop a solution with the AI, which happened to solve that problem. Okay? In terms of the organization of this meeting, you can interrupt me anytime. If you cannot hear me, do something so I notice that my microphone is too far. If you raise your hand, it's like a volunteer bias. I will harass you with more questions. Okay. Sorry for me spelling on my slides. Again, AI would be helpful over here. If you find something that interests you, find me. Nina knows how to find me. There's obviously internet. I like my slides simple. There's not going to be animation. There's going to be 4 colors and the 1 font. Okay, and because I like my job at Mayo Clinic, those are my personal view, not the Mayo Clinic, although we shouldn't be too far. So what we're going to start, we're going to say, what is the AI? Then we're going to say what is the best about the AI and what is the worst about the AI, or where you have to pay attention when somebody will tell you, I have this awesome AI thing. It will make you taller, bigger, faster, or whatever. Then you're going to say, well, which question should I ask this person? So I will try to go over that. That will touch what are the big problems in the AI. There is no solution without the big problems. Where AI right now is the first explosion of the nuclear bomb several years ago. We developed nuclear bomb. It only took us 10 years to actually figure out how to use it, right? So that's exactly where we are in the AI, although the world is a little bit more complicated. And then I'll tell you how we work with the AI. So what is the AI? There are two actually AI is the name that was chosen in 1955 by the bunch of the people who were thinking, if we do this complex math, because AI is the complex math, should we call this artificial intelligence? Or should we call this computer design system support? Well, the latter one sucks. The first one is much better, right? So we went with the AI, right? I have a psychology degree, and what's the definition of the intelligence? Is something that the intelligence test measures, which is the definition that you cannot define. I went to the Encyclopedia Britannica and sort of asked, okay, what is the AI? And according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, AI is the mirror image in silico of the human mind, right? Well, I don't know how to define the human. There's actually not that a good definition of the AI. What practically this could be considered is a very, very complex mathematic process which allows you to somehow process the data. If you look at this definition, there is some process which somehow processes the data. We don't know how the AI works when you run through the computer. We do not know what is in the black box. Is that exactly how the human works, right? You look at your colleague and like, how did you think that? We do exactly the same thing for the AI. Like, how did you come up with this idea? But what we believe what AI can do, it could be good at the reasoning. It could be good at the knowledge acquisition. If you ever go to certain software and you say, I want a synopsis of 20,000 abstracts, and then you get like all these different clouds and connection, this is the AI doing the work. It doesn't mean it's right, but it's a synthesis of the knowledge that otherwise you couldn't do. Learning. AI can learn. Most of us can learn as well. I think this is the only definition. Some people are not trainable. I'm sorry to say that. I have a low faith in the humanity. Every AI can be trained, but you have a full control over that process. Natural language processing. This is a very, very hot subject. I'm sure you do not want to dictate your notes. AI will dictate that notes from you, and even better, not only does what Google does this way, which is I can speak to the Google, and then I can talk to my Chinese in-laws, and we have this incredible interaction that none of us knows the language, But somehow we are able to communicate. It's absolutely weird when I do it, okay? But you can have a conversation with the AI and the AI with the patients, and the AI on the base of this conversation say, that's how your note should look like. That's fantastic. You don't even think about the composition. You just read what the AI just gave you to do. Perception. The first thing when the AI was developed, any radiologists here? Yeah, you're about to lose your job, right? I'm kidding. Is actually image analysis, because it's super simple, right? And in certain places, that's actually life-saving development having AI. Why? If you go to China with the rate of smoking, number of the scan, and number of radiologists, they will never process this manual or using a human being. So now you start having this kind of small thing on the bottom, even in the United States, processed by the AI. That's sort of being faster and faster and faster. I think the question to ask yourself, well, I'm an anesthesiologist. By the way, my wife is a CRNA. I'm going to lose the job to her. So the question I'm asking, if you get married, that actually, if we stay married, she's my 403 plan. My question is like, how do I do a better job that she cannot do? And I think that's a question that we as a physician needs to ask. What do I do that AI cannot do? Or how do I harness AI to do better what I do? The second thing is the robotics. So there's no robot which can work without the AI. And you can see the first robots which actually work as nurses, especially from China. They will come here sooner or later. You will see the robots which actually can autonomously do the surgery. Somebody told me a year ago that, oh, you always will need the nurse to put the IV. I'm like, that's not true. There's actually an article in Science from 2000 which shows a robot which used the ultrasound to put the IV in the patient's arm. So future is here. It's just a question that you need to be thinking how I'm going to adapt. And the other thing is the social skills. This is what you hear everywhere, ChatGPT. You can interact with the people. You can talk to the Bank of America. Hey, my name is Nadia. Hi, my name is Siri. This is a ChatGPT talking to you. And they're so good that you cannot tell the difference. In 1955, there was a question how to if the AI can get so good that you can recognize from the human, that means they won. It's called the Turing experiment. Well, somebody published the paper that according to at least Mayo ChatGPT is unrecognizable to the human. You don't know whether you talk with a human being or you talk to the in that case, algorithm. And they can console. There's a case of somebody who killed himself in Netherlands because him and the AI, they were in the relationship, whatever it's called. Okay, and she told he was worried about the global warming, and she was a little bit pessimistic on that day and told the guy, you should kill yourself, and he did. So this is what is coming. So the question is how we can utilize, not to, for example, write the emails to the patients, maybe ChatGPT should write it, or some other ways that we can improve our notes. I start writing my own grants with the utilization of the AI. It's great. I don't have to spend that much time writing, and I can think about the creative part of that. Okay, now, so this is the great thing, but if the AI is so mimicking human brain, guess what? It can be delusional. It can actually generate the output that never exists over there. We call this the delusions or hallucinations. That means that you have this set, like for example, you fed the AI the data about the pulmonary hypertension. And the AI starts, for example, talking about the lung, or the gallbladder, or the brain function, or something else. By the way, we have absolutely no clue how this is happening. So AI is so good in mimicking human nature that actually it's mimicking fallacy of the human nature. It can confabulate. It can make up the stories that never existed in the initial data set. And then the funny thing is, you ever feel that the AI is doing better than you do, you can dial down the IQ element. Okay, so you can like, you know what, I don't like you. You get, it's like in the relationship, like instead of saying like, why don't you just be quiet, you're like, I just dial you down by 2 notches. And the relationship is much better. Okay, so now everybody sees AI. Why is that? There's 4 factors which enable development of the AI. AI is here from 1955. It's 2022, so what happened in those years? There were not enough computers, or not fast enough computers. There were no data sets. I talked to somebody who in 70 had a database of 5,000 patients that his postdoc entered. He was very proud of that. 5,000 is nothing now. It's like not even worth starting anything on that, right? Unless, I don't know, they're patient with some kind of rare disease. The other thing is computing power went very, very high, and now everybody saw the money. That is why you see the driver. But who sees the money? Not us, venture capital. There are no physician in that role which can say, that's the way you should utilize the AI, this way we should not. Okay? And if you ever work with the engineer, you understand that if engineer tries to invent something, it kind of doesn't work. You have to tell him that there's a better way of doing that. Okay? So data, freely available. All of you have a cell phone. Gazillions of the data. In 2008, we could identify who is or is not pregnant using the data from Target. It's a famous case when the dad called the Target and say, why are you sending the diapers to my daughter? And it's like, oh, because we think she's pregnant. He's like, no, impossible. He was wrong, they were right. This is because they look at the patterns that you purchase. If I take the database of the physician, how they practice medicine at UPHS or Mayo, I can tell you exactly who is on the call because I see the practice patterns. It's like fingerprint. And now I have access to it. Computing power, how to put it? Who has an iPhone 4? Anybody remember iPhone 4? Yeah. iPhone 4 now is equivalent to the Cray computer. Cray computer beats the first human thing in the chess. Currently, the newest computer, if you want to have the same computing power, you have to put 18,000 PS4 station to get the same thing. That means it's running the simulations even quicker. And those computers are based on the old technology, silica technology. We all hear about the nano quantum computers. That will be an increase in the magnitude by the order of 10,000, which means you can calculate things even faster. My phone could probably, let me put it this way, I think that may be exaggeration, but the computer who flew people to moon in '69 had the computing power between my first computer and the Mayo pager. Okay, that was, can you imagine how big was that leap in '69? But it also tells you how much things move forward. And the second thing, storage is cheap. I still remember I would buy like 20 megabyte disk, we were very, very happy. Now I'm like, okay, like 4 terabytes. Sure, I have 20 of them in my house, and I have like a whole array of them. I can store any amount of data I can. When you shoot the pictures, you never think anymore about that I should delete the picture. Why? Because this iPhone holds so much stuff. Wow, so all of this make incredible technological enablers, okay? And the second thing, money came to the play. So people tried to put the money in the AI, but there was just not enough revenue. Now what you're seeing is everybody who has any amount of capital will pump the money in that sphere, because people want outcomes. I work with several people with the AI. They change the job for all different venture capital to another momentarily. And that will come here to the medicine, and it's coming to the medicine. The question is how we can actually adapt to that. Okay, so let's talk about how the AI works. Any questions to why this is happening? So what's AI? It's not the Skynet. Actually, it is. But there's a couple of people who are known in the world of the AI. My favorite is Dr. Abramov. This is the guy who used the AI in the 90s and designed a device that you can look into the device. It does the scan of your eyes and tells you what is your risk of the macular degeneration. So is it a great idea? Sure, you can put in an CVS. It would be great. Well, that was 1998. Why didn't it actually take off? Well, one of the reasons, his scan only cost the hospital $25, but if you get ophthalmologist, you can charge $200. Why would you ever have an AI doing this for you? Right? People are like, what's about the liability? He was so sure about his invention. He's like, I paid all the lawsuits. And still took him only 20 years to get this actual in fashion or field it. This is the first, his retina scans is the first FDA approval actual AI device. Okay, so for how the AI developed, AI is from 50s. Literally, so many things happen from 50s or during Second World War. It's kind of funny. Then there's ups and downs. People sort of say, we can use it, but there's no technological means. There are breakthroughs. In 80s, internet starts, so we have a lot of connectivity. In 90s, DARPA starts investing a lot of money in this complex neural network, and they start thinking, and people are like, oh, maybe we should invest some more. And then what happened is it skyrocket. What was the first industry implementing AI? Finance. If you do the high-frequency training, human beings cannot sell and buy the stocks every 0.2 seconds. But AI can. And the things got so crazy that there was a guy who wanted, so you have to, the way this works is that you execute the trade has to go to the New York Stock Exchange, and then has to come back. There's a guy who actually built fiber optic cable between Chicago and New York to shave 0.02 seconds on that time, so you can make the trades faster. There was a crash, I think 6 years ago, when the AI got it a little bit wrong, and the stock went 800 points down in the matters of seconds. I have a Charles Schwab portfolio, which is managed by AI. And by the way, it's great. It costs me only 0.07% in the cost. But my guy, who is the financial advisor, wants 8%. And I have the same outcomes. I love AI for that. It saved me 7.8%. Second thing, which you see a lot, is the law enforcement. One of the big experiments in Pennsylvania. People were thinking, okay, who is a good candidate for the parole? Right now, it's a judgment call. So we invented that AI can do it. There's a company who filled that. It's an excellent example because the AI used the historical data. That means that if you were black, you almost had no chance to have a parole because we use the old data. But it's one of the things that we're thinking like, okay, how can we stratify the risk? Then you see more and more in the entertainment industry. You see a lot of in the engineering. If you fly on the plane, sometimes plane will not take off, not because the engine is broken, because the AI tells that this part is about to be used up, and you should replace it proactively. And then what happened is in 2020, now you start seeing AI in the healthcare. Now, is the AI used in the military? Absolutely, yes. There's AGM-137 guided missile by Lockheed Rockdyne, which actually has an AI and is designed to evade any interception for 4,000 miles. So that's also what you see a lot. Incredible interest from the military, how this can augment possibilities. All right, what is the AI like from the kitchen? Say AI is nothing else, quote unquote, but the very complex math which can take a lot of data and somehow aggregate them. And that aggregation can happen by, for example, regression. We all read the papers when you open the paper and there is some kind of variable and there is a table with 50 other covariables or independent variables. That's a regression. What regression does, it tells you like how many factors may affect some outcome. That's a very simple math, that's a very simple AI. The other thing is you can look at this incredible amount of data and you can do what we do. You like, this thing's group here, or this thing's group there, and this thing's group here, right? We all did that. Like, we have this cluster of the patients. This is called the clustering technique. So that's another way to do the AI. And the last thing is the classification. How we get all those cases together. We have these cases and they look more or less the same. Classification works very well in the engineering because you're like, well, if you have this, this, and that parameter which is off, your engine is about to catch fire. Okay, and AI can do it. We cannot as a human being, at least not consciously. So AI can do it, but it requires tons of data, tons of the computing power. Now, when you do that, you have three ways to do this. One, it's supervised, which you mean, I want your AI to start from this assumption. For example, I want you to start that, for example, everybody who lives in the city has this income, is medical doctor, okay, and that's it. And that will work in Rochester very well, because there's only 2 employees. I don't know how the people get a job over here. I make the assumption that everybody is a doctor. But in Mayo, everybody works from Mayo. I'm sorry, in Rochester, everybody works from Mayo, or they work for the IBM. So that model would work very, very well, because classifications are similar. But if you go with the same model to Philadelphia, it will not work at all, right? So now you have to do different analysis. You're telling the AI, You have a bunch of data. You do with it whatever algorithm that somebody wants you to do it. It's called the unsupervised analysis, which means that AI will analyze the data and will come with some kind of classification, common motives, integration, the stuff like that, right? And a perfect example is from radiology. If I use the radiologist as my source of the knowledge, I'm saying like, oh, that's a supervised modeling. If I just tell the AI, this is a bunch of images with the pneumonia, you tell me what is the common traits, that's unsupervised. There's another technique, which is called the reinforcement. That means is that either way you do it, supervised, supervised, you introduce the learning. That means is after crunching the data, you tell the AI, okay, wait a second, let me see what you produce, and I'm going to teach you whether you did it wrong or right. Okay? So now, there's X amount of the AI in the world. The first one is something called the reactive AI. Reactive AI is something that you see right now. They're very simple models. They work very well with the image analysis. They actually cannot think so well. Next one is something what we call the limited memory. They can remember what they did. They can evolve, how good they are with the clustering. The next one, they actually can start thinking like human. We're not there yet. We're waiting for the quantum computer to go over there. And the next thing is AI can become self-aware, right? Why not? At some point, will. And then what we believe another things will happen. You will have something called the singularity. Not only AI will become identity, it can actually write itself, can rewrite the program. That's when the matrix comes, by the way. Somewhere between those two, right? And if you look at the doomsday scenario, I think the closest one we are to the singularity is 2030 or never, and anything in between. But AI will be able to rewrite its own code. We're actually using AI right now to write the code, computer codes, quite freely. And it makes actual job for me much easier. I don't know coding. I tell the AI to write the code for me. Okay. Along from this a little bit different division, you have this all different level machine learning that you hear a lot. That's a very simple, in AI world, way of analyzing the data. The next step is the machine intelligence and then the consciousness. How we're going to interact with somebody who is conscious, I have no idea, and nobody does. But sooner or later will happen, probably before I retired, unfortunately. Okay. Now, what the people quite often say, AI will never be better than human. It cannot think out of the box. I strongly encourage you to put the AI battles in the YouTube, and you see how the AI is trying to kill another AI, coming with the very, very ingenious solution. AI can think outside the box. They have no feeling or emotions or creativity. Well, if something reaches the level of the same consciousness and actually can program itself, that's creativity. If you interact with the chat GTP, which some company use it for the psychological support, this emotional bond is there. What is the emotion in the first place? I don't know, but for sure they evoked emotion on the other person. Will they have emotion eventually? I don't know how I'm going to tell AI, I'm sorry, I hurt your feeling. And then what, I pull the cable out? Is that a murder? It's kind of interesting if you think, but all those things are somewhere in the cooking. What you see over here, this is where the current application, a lot of computer vision. When you drive the car and it shows you 65 miles per hour on the dashboard, this is the AI reading the image in front of you. If you drive self-driving Tesla or a bunch of other cars right now, that's an AI in action, which can analyze the image very, very quickly and make a decision. By the way, what is the #1 accident that AI, self-driving cars, gets in trouble in San Francisco? And if you remember, San Francisco is really terrible to drive. So what is the problem over there? Any takers? Why they crash? The hills. Second? The hills. No? People rear-end them because they always make a full stop on the stop sign. Right? Which is not our fallacy, it's not AI. People say AI had an accident. Sure, there was like 2 or 3 accidents in AI. After 179,000 hours of driving, average human being has an accident after 50,000. So they're not going to be error-free. They will be better than we are. They actually are better in driving than we are. You see a lot of, again, communication, programming, technology, music, all what you hear about the strikes of the people who do not want to work for the Hollywood and they want a new deal with the producers is precisely about that. You can take the AI and write the script based on the prior things. You can take this with everybody. There's a big case right now that if you teach AI using the Monet, who owns the copyright? And they can paint. In medicine, what you see the applications are in the predictive analytics, means who will get sick in 5 years. We cannot do that. AI can. Text-to-speech, or all the speech methodology that you see quite a lot. Image recognition, which is literally right here. Then language processing, which we also talk about. Then the expert system. Expert system is in the, quite often used in the aviation. They tell the pilot, your engine is about to fail. In 28 hours, you have to actually have a maintenance. That probably will happen for us in the context of the human being. Planning and optimization, and again, we're coming back to the robotics. This is how many companies works in the AI in 2021, I believe, okay? And this is the fields. And this is the company with the capitalization of $1 billion, right? So you can imagine how much of this is coming at us as a physician, and we're like, it's going to hit us. And we're going to be a little bit lost in the process unless we'll be a little bit more proactive, right? This is, again, another review, what is happening a little bit more in the context of the workflows, but the AI will come. It will literally come to all your work. Now, since we're talking what the AI can do, we can sort of complain what AI cannot do, or where is the potential problem. For example, what we don't know, how the medical legal issues are going to be resolved. Like, who should, like, in the most plain language, who will get sued if the AI will make a mistake? Is it a physician? Is it a designer? Is it who? Right? On top of that, by the way, the hospital wants to know AI, and you can see that if you ever want to enter the agreement to work on the AI in other institution, they will fight you on the data. Because now everybody wants their own AI, and that's a proprietary information, which now creates this funny thing. It's like, okay, who is really responsible for that? Designer, company, producer of the data, right? There's also another kind of interesting thing. It doesn't take that much to actually execute AI. Should it be for free? There's a talks in European Union talking that AI is the common good. We're using all patients' data to do that. Why somebody should benefit from this disproportionately, right? IP problems. When I was involved in the IP creation, I was told very early, it's very difficult to patent this because it's a code, and you have to patent the idea, which now makes another sort of level. So a lot of people don't want to engage unless they have a huge backing from the other side. And then robustness. How good is the AI? Is it really better than you or me? How it was going to work? So at the end, the question is, will we love it or will we hate AI? Right? And I sort of tried to kind of put this together. Actually, I was not sure what is the good color for the love and hate. So I put love pink, hate kind of brownish, right? But if you think about, why we should it love, it makes your life easier. If I don't have to dictate note, I love it. If I sit in my tele-ICU unit and system generate 8,000 alarms, I don't need to check them. The system will check them for me and show me only the one which actually will make a difference. So your productivity should be easier or better. That means we should leave sooner home. Some people say that maybe it's democratization of the health. We all talk about how we want everybody to have a better access to health, but it's horrible expensive. It costs only electricity to run the AI. In China, you can go to the booth and say, like, I have these symptoms. It will give you the diagnosis. Is it able to recognize the lupus? No, but we also know that it takes 5 to 6 visits of somebody to diagnose if you involve the human being. And then it's this equity of health. There are barriers, at least in the US healthcare and others, that is very difficult to access healthcare. AI may enable this access. Why would you hate it? It's a job competition. right? Somebody will come and take my job. This is one of the most common things, okay? That means that maybe somebody can take AI and be anesthesiologist, and he just finished college. Why not, right? So that's a threat to my work. Now, will that eat into my bottom line? That's an Abramov example. He was told, if you have ophthalmologists, we charge $200. If you do your stuff, it's $25. Why would we ever deploy that? It's a loss for the hospital, right? Second thing is, hate it because we don't know it. There's an incredible ignorance, and everybody watches the TV, and the TV lives on the fearful emotion. So whatever comes from the AI, we believe is bad. And then there's apprehension, like, oh, none of this is going to work. At the end of the day, those are probably wrong emotion, because there's no hiding, there's no avoidance, there's no way out. It's like electricity. It will come. It's a question of who wants from this group to be a leader and actually steer us to the maybe more brighter future than, like in anesthesiology, wake up 20 years later that everybody can do my job, at least 95% of it. Right? Okay? So it is also incredible opportunity. That's precisely, it's a very early stages. There's no regulation about the AI. You can buy yourself a book, AI for Dummies, and you're going to be as smart as I am, and probably even better, because you understand the book better than I do. Okay? That means now is the time. Then you're like, okay, how do I become AI believer, leader, expert, whatever, social media person? Okay, how do we make the patients happier and better? How you make the world more equitable? How you make the world better place? If you ask capital to do it, it may not work to the best of our options. Okay, so when any of you think about the barriers, how to get involved, first have an idea. Be bold. And I told you how I got involved in my AI, just to give you an example. Okay, be idealistic. Everybody will tell you that, whatever you're doing is crazy, sucks, you will never succeed. I've heard this all my life, and I was like, no. That's how I met Nina. Someone told me, you never became anesthesiologist in the United States. The IMGs don't happen to be anesthesiologists. Well, I was 32 from 1600, but I made it because I tried. So try, please. Okay, have a lot of connections. None of my research I did in the isolation. Don't believe that you're going to sit in the garage and come up with the awesome AI. You will not. You will, in 20 years. You will be obsolete halfway through the process. Get the connection, get the people who know how to write the code, who know the algorithm, tell them, this is what I want to do. That's how we can make money. And then you get all those opportunities. Then you have a process. I got involved in the AI in 2015. It only takes 6 years to fill the freaking product. And it was incredible pain and anguish. Nobody actually thanked me for that, but I was happier. Okay, but at the end, you will have a solution to the problem, which is based on the AI. Life is going to be better. World is going to be better, and maybe you make some money. Okay, I may be idealistic in this view, but I think that's what powers a lot of people, and sometimes we forget that. So how you create AI? It's simple. You have tons of data. You take this data. You ask somebody to write the code. You run this through the code, and then you get the output. Very simple. It's not that complicated. I was sitting on all those meetings, and I did the first thing when they tell you in the innovation. Fake it until you make it. So I was nodding, and I'm like, sure, yeah, absolutely, cool, amazing, right? But make a couple of things make sense. Is the data adequate? In 2020 or 2021, Amazon decided to employ AI to screen the job application. Turns out that you can only be white male if you want to be hired in the Amazon. They spent literally 5 years trying to eradicate this problem, and they gave up. They say there's so much bias in this problem, you have to start in the new data set. So make sure that you have a good data set. You put the garbage in, you will get the garbage out. You will be disappointed. Who owns that data set? It will be really heartbreaking if you do the whole work and then somebody will tell you, well, it's actually property of the Mayo Clinic, so thank you for all this work. We appreciate you, great, enthusiast, but it's ours. You will be really disappointed. Okay, once you have an algorithm, the same question asked, who owns it? If we deploy this solution, I don't want to be in a situation that I have no right in this process. The process comes from who owns the algorithm, who owns the data, who has a good idea, and who you will implement this idea for things together. And then the question, like, when you start applying, okay, who is going to be responsible? Do you trust? Right? So when I employ my AI, I absolutely lied to my colleague. I told them, listen, this solution is going to help you. And I was thinking, I can replace what they do with the AI. Obviously, if I were the last one, they would probably fire me or crucify me in the parking lot. Should we pay for it and then ask what's the effect on the workforce? It's hard to tell the people, I'm going to give you AI and I'm going to take your job. That's the ultimate fail on the adoption. So think about all those things. So how this works, in my case, is a very simple example of implementation. I work in ICU. Anybody from critical care? Yeah, so it's total disaster. Very complex technology, complicated patients, crazy families, tons of smart people. Each monitor displays 7 variables. They change over the time. It's like, I don't know, multiple blinded study on the patients that hopefully we can exercise fast enough that he will not die in the 6 hours, right? It's a complex environment, but and if you think about this environment, it's stressful. So I did a study when we put like a stress monitors on the people who work in the ICU. Those snails is actually from me. The one which looks like a blue and yellow is me before I started the shift. And the one which looks like a red and blue is me on the shift. That's a 12 hours recording, by the way. So you can imagine, it doesn't take rocket science to figure out which one is which, right? So I'm come to the unit, it's only like 25 patients, everything is falling apart. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to repeat this 7 times per week. Okay, good luck. We put those also on the nurses who did the COVID. They were like absolutely freaking out from the temperature, from the overheat. This is extremely stressful environment, and I have to make a decision in that environment. I'm failing human, especially at the end of my shift. So that's how the ICU works. But then to make this ICU environment even more complicated, we love to add to our work nonsensical stuff. And you have a clinical task, which are routine, urgent, emergent. I did ICU for emergent and maybe urgent. But the usual thing, that's what Nina made me do. Chris, just put the SENA order in, or something like that, right? So I was thinking like, okay, the usual solution for that, let's do the checklist. And I'm like, please, can I have a solution which does not add to my work? I need something which actually take the work away from me. So I sort of thought about it, and I'm like, well, this routine thing kind of sucks. I have to look at this. Should I? So then I ask, okay, which are the routine things that we do all the time which matters? And you have a DVT prophylaxis, ventilator bundle, feeding nutrition, and you have these electrolytes. I'm pretty sure if you run in the medical ICU or ICU, there's the question, patient's potassium is 3.4. Should we give potassium? And there's like a whole decision process, 20, 40, 60 milligrams, PO, IV. I counted. It takes only 60 minutes in 25-bed unit. And I believe we do absolutely no difference. Well, on the other hand, we do this because potassium is important. Too much will kill you, too little will kill you. It's also kind of complicated, right? Like this is pH problems, some fluid shifts, all this other stuff. Complicated metabolism, like how can you actually grasp your head around it? But we pretend we do. But that's what happened when we're trying to do this task of potassium replacement. We just need to remember that if we underdose, something probably bad happen to the patients. If we overdose, they die from the hyperkalemia. It's technically fixable, but sometimes we cannot get them in the time. And when we replete potassium when it's normal, we just waste our time because that doesn't change the clinical outcome. So the question was like, okay, how does this work? So what we did is I pulled the records from University of Pennsylvania, and what we discovered that in 70% of time, we actually replete potassium when it's normal. I'm like, amazing, such a waste of time. I thought, maybe we're not as smart as the other people, but Harvard does exactly the same, even better, even worse. And we're like, wow, so much time being wasted. Like, this is just amazing, right? So what we figured out, okay, can we do this a little bit more tailored to the patients and a little bit more guided by the current state of the patient? There are 2 aspects of the personal medicine, who I am as a human being and who I am in my disease process. Those are 2 different. If you think about the waste, this is the recreation of the chain of event that has to happen if you want to replete potassium at Penn. it only takes 27 minutes of work. And if you compensate $200 per hour, and you multiply this by 70,000, it's a substantial saving. And then if you overdose, and I show you an example how overdose might happen, patients die. So what happened was, first question we asked, if you replete potassium, are you effective? So this is how this works. The kind of yellow bars are before repletion, and the blue one are after repletion. There's almost no shift. So if you believe that you make a difference in the potassium, most of the time you don't. Okay, hypokalemia caused the atrial fibrillation, right? This is the mantra that we always hear. So what we did, this is the graph, and I apologize, it's a little bit complicated graph. But on the X and Y axis is the same physician. And on one axis, he does replace the potassium. On the other one, he does not. And what this color in the middle is the heart rate variability of the patients, which is very, very high if they have an AFib. And if there would be interaction, this cloud would be skewed. But this cloud looks like a very nice cloud in the middle of the summer in Connecticut. That means there's absolutely no difference if this fusion does replete or does not replete. There's no effectiveness, so you're just wasting your time. So the other thing is, which is kind of interesting, we look when there's electrode replacement, and this pretty much shows when the order was placed, order was executed, and then and the next lab value happened. What I want to show you is this, like this kind of tail, which is like in the negative territory. What is that? This is somebody putting order preemptively, and then the nurse execute the order, which means somebody potassium was 5.3, he got potassium. Well, you just put the patients at risk, right? How could that happen? Well, it does. That's a simple reality. You can run the same analysis in your hospital. I'm sure it will come to the same thing. So then, since I kind of like to think things sometimes too much, I'm like, how do we analyze this? And any traditional analysis would not work, why this is happening. And then someone's like, have you tried the AI? I'm like, not yet, let's try it. I made a bunch of the people, and we decided we're going to design AI. And we replicate the process that I just told you. We took the record. We have a 450,000 patients visit. So this is the number of the data that you need, 450,000. We split them in two. One is something that we're going to train the AI, and we're going to design the system that the AI looks at the 56 parameters, learn from that parameters what happened to the following potassium, and create advisor network how you should dose, right? And when the AI does it, it can do it every 20 seconds by pulling the data from the computer. It's called the reinforced learning. So now you have a toy that instead of me being told by Nina that I have to do X, Y, Z, computer will tell me, oh, that's what you should do. And then you just deploy this. All right, so first of all, this is the couple quirks. You start from 450,000 records after what you want to get, because the records are really problematic. You end up with 11,000 or 13,000 records. Again, split in two, and you can see which values we took into account. How did which variables we took into account? How did we find them? We asked physicians. So we use the supervised learning. We actually tell the AI, only pay attention to these 56 parameters. Okay, and then we use the algorithm. And then we got a recommendation, and then what happened? So this is the graph, what happened before and after deployment. Green is before the deployment. Red is after deployment. First of all, there's no replete potassium above 3.5 because AI deemed that ineffective. There's also no repleting potassium over 5.2, which means you will save somebody's life who otherwise would get it. Second thing, this, again, green is before, red is after. We told the AI we want the PO replacement potassium. Look how the values dramatically change. Right? Green was a lot of IV, and now it's a lot of PO. So it changes our behavior. It changes the clinical sort of strategy. You could ask yourself in reverse, are we really that bad at this? Right? This is another graph which looks fancy. It's always good to impress people with a fancy graph, but this is the last fancy graph. This is how AI works. So what you have here is the patients over 160 hours, right? And we're measuring potassium in the ICU, and what the potassium should be is actually in kind of, this is the reference zone, is the blue one. So, and then the graph below is the physician who, or medical provider, how we call them these days, and what they do. So they replete potassium when it's kind of low normal, and it's a borderline normal. But if it drops, they don't replete potassium, and then they give the patient 1 shot of potassium just before they leave the ICU. I have to admit, I almost see that happening in my unit. Let's give him potassium magnesium before he goes to the floor, just to tank him up. Well, first of all, we missed the opportunity. Look what AI does. Very different structure. It starts actually giving potassium preemptively when the level kind of starts dipping, and it gets extremely aggressive when the level dips down. That's how it works. Okay, and now you can ask yourself, are we that bad, or this thing is so good, or where is the truth? But this way, for me, and I'm the lazy person, I don't have to rant on this problem anymore. I don't have to have a conversation with my resident. Should it go 20, 40, or whatever? I just get a pop-up window. Okay, so again, safe repletion. We increase the PO route, which is the things. The process can be fully automated. We did not do that because there was a lot of push from my colleagues about this. And by the way, this process repeats itself every 20 seconds. It's a continuous process of advising. So that's pretty much my presentation. Again, just to kind of tell you how many people it takes to do it. Obviously, I have to put my current boss. It takes 4 different divisions from Penn to make this happen. Okay. Then he took the people from Princeton University who wrote that algorithm. I don't write the algorithm. I ask somebody to write the algorithm for me. And you can find somebody in the 50 miles radius who will know how to do it. We work with the Geisinger Health System on this project. There's a lot of stuff was done with the Society of Critical Care Medicine. A lot of people came from our organization. They mostly analyzed what is the sensible and ethical way of deploying this. And then we work with the UK group precisely on the same level. See, this is just the leaders. Each of these people have 5 people to work for him. So this is a huge project. It's possible to make. You just need to spend some time. All right, so that's pretty much my presentation. Any question about the AI being great and awesome?